Hi, everybody. Good evening. Welcome to our information session for Bangor High School seniors and senior parents. My name is Adam Leach. I'm school counselor here at Bangor High School. I'm sure I know lots of you. As I was looking through the list of parents, it was pretty amazing to see how many familiar names there were there. Maybe it's part of COVID and what we've been through the last couple of years. Maybe it's just a part of getting older. But it's like I thought you guys were just freshmen, and so it's pretty amazing to be talking to a lot of you as seniors and senior parents. So welcome tonight. Um, uh, if I could just make sure that I'm coming through loud and clear, could somebody just say hi in the chat? Hey there. All right. I'm making noise and people can hear me. So that's good. Thank you. Um, I want to start by giving some quick introductions to myself and some other folks. As I said, my name's Adam Leach. I'm one of the school counselors working with seniors, and also in this year's senior counselor core is Sharon Eyre and Scott Clement. And we also have a new person this year called her title is graduation coach, and her name is Justine Cohn, and she will be working with some of our seniors as well. So we've got a good team of four, as well as all of your teachers and administrators around the building that will be helping your students in the process. So lots of people there and here to help you out. I've got my note sheet over here on the side that I'm making sure that I'm going to stay on track and I don't start rambling. Some of you that know me, I can take off on tangents once in a while. So try to keep me on target for not keeping you here too long. And, but also making sure that I can provide some good enough information for all of you. I also, I do want to offer one little door prize. I had 90 people sign up for this. And so as people are logging in, I do have a door prize. There is a Dunkin' Donut gift card. And I will have Sharon pick a number between 1 and 90 here in a few minutes. We'll let some more people get logged in. And then we will pick a winner for that. So stay tuned for that. Also, this video will be recorded and posted on YouTube, and you'll be able to review it, or you can completely ignore me now and watch me later, or fast forward to the parts that you want. So that's for your convenience. When we meet live, these meetings in the past have always been live and in Peaks Auditorium. And so I decided to do it on YouTube, not because of COVID or anything like that, but mostly because a lot of people struggle to get away from the dinner table or to get home from work in time to get out to the school, or there were sporting events or anything like that. So this seemed to be one of those things that we could learn from the COVID experience and be able to give you a little bit more custom designed experience and something that is more accessible to all of you. Normally, when we'd have these in person, we'd only have probably about 20 or 30 families, and like I said, we've already gotten up to that, doing it this way, and lots more people will be able to log in and check out the video later on. I am also, as at the conclusion of this, I do have a sheet with all of my notes for this presentation that I will send out to the emails that you all provided in the registration. So if you want to be able to just take a look at the notes as opposed to watching a video, you can do that as well. I'll be sending that out to all of you as soon as we're done tonight. So the first thing that I want to do before I jump into anything else is to acknowledge some of the questions that you have already posted in your registration, and also to let you know that you are welcome to post questions in the chat box, and Sharon Air, one of our other counselors, will help answer questions in the chat. Just a quick timeline though, I'm going to answer some questions. I'm going to talk about college applications and the application process and the things that students should be doing in the proper order. The things that are most important time wise coming up, and then kind of expanding out throughout the rest of the school year. I'll talk a little bit about highly selective schools. I know there's a lot of you that are looking for questions about early action and early decision. I'll talk a little bit about our on-the-spot admissions days with UMaine, University of Southern Maine, and Husson. Talk a little bit about community college applications, making contact with colleges, visits, interviews, and those sorts of things. Talk a little bit about the military, and then dedicate a fair amount of time to financial aid, and as well as some adulting tips for students that are leaving the nest and are going to be a little bit more on their own. Those are tips for the students, but it's also tips for parents as well, to especially if it's your first going out, leaving high school. It's helpful to talk about some of that. So I'm going to jump in. I'll talk right away about the questions. There were two questions that are not part of what I had already planned to say, and I'll address those first. There was one question about Empire Beauty School, and is there financial aid for that institution? The answer is yes. On their website, they do have a little bit of information about the FAFSA form, the free application for federal student aid. You do fill that out even for Empire Beauty School, and that is how they determine the level of financial aid that you would get at their institute, just like any other university would do. The other question that was kind of outside of my plan, but I thought was really a really good question. Somebody asked about careers, career connections for students that attend United Technology Center, UTC. And the best thing that I can do for that, because all of the instructors are kind of experts in their fields, and there is a school counselor at UTC that can help you out with that as well. In fact, there's the new dean of students is Noelle Auclair, and Heather Pelletier is the name of the school counselor that works at UTC. They would be even better resources than we would be here at school. Also, some students do have access to a program called vocational rehabilitation. If your student is eligible for that program, that's through the Department of Labor, and that can help you out as well. Certainly feel free to contact us at the school here if you have any questions about any of that. At the top of the chat, I did put in the contact information for myself, Mrs. Ayer, Mr. Clement, and Ms. Cohn. And there's two types of contact there. There's our email address and also a Calendly link. If you use that link, you can schedule an appointment with us to either talk via Zoom, Google Meet actually, and or in person here at school. So if you have any questions about those kinds of things and you would really like to talk to us really more specifically one-on-one, definitely use that link to schedule an appointment. Puts you right on our calendar. Jumping right in now, I'd like to go ahead and start really talking about college applications and the whole process there. With the block schedule, many of your students are in an English class right now, in a senior English class, but many of them are not. The ones that have the advantage of being in an English class right now, they are working on common application and college essays as part of the class. If your student is not in an English class right now, I would say that the urgency should be that they should um, either connect with us through their advisory period, or go ahead and use one of those Calendly links and make appointments with us to talk about the essay and talking about letters of recommendation and talking about getting the common application filled out. Those are things that the English teachers are really good about helping students with. But if you're a second semester English student, you're not going to have that advantage right out of the gate. So the first things first, it's like always, especially if this is the first child, don't have the advantage of an older brother or sister to help with the process, to give a few tips, then you need to know a little bit of what comes first. The most time consuming part of the college application is the essay. College essay is 650 words long, and it requires some revision, it requires some work, and it requires some time to kind of process and think about what you're going to write, and then to edit and improve and make it a little bit better. So that's the part of the application that takes the longest time, and students should be working on that, now. If they haven't started, they need to really kick it in gear and get started. And like I said, always, feel free to use those links to schedule appointments so that we can help with that process. The next thing that students need to do after thinking about their college essay, one other thing I almost forgot too. The college essay on the common application, which I'm going to talk about in just a second, the common application has 6 prompts that they use so students can kind of gear the question towards their thesis towards a certain question. So they can go on to Common App and they can find those prompts. You can also Google it. But really what I tell students about the essay prompts is think about what you want to say and then just craft it to fit one of the prompts. They're fairly general. In fact, one of the prompts is if there's something that you think is important, talk about it. So there's always this kind of catch-all prompt, and you can always use that one too. So it's mostly important to think about what is the topic that you want to talk about the most about yourself in writing that essay. The next thing that's important to do is to get at least one letter of recommendation from a teacher. And the way that process goes is the student should contact the teacher first before assigning the teacher the task of writing the letter of recommendation. Talk to the teachers about what you would like them to write, why you're asking them to be their recommender, so that you can kind of inspire a little bit of what the teacher will write for you. It's really important to find a teacher that knows you the best. So what is the teacher that you've built the best relationship with? That's the person that should be writing your letter of recommendation. Don't just automatically go to the English teachers because you assume English teachers can write good letters, although that is probably true. The quality of the grammar of the letter is less important than the quality of the narrative. So math teachers, PE teachers, history teacher, anybody that has had the student in class should be the person that is writing the letter of recommendation. If some schools require more than one letter of recommendation, and so once you set up your Common App, and again, I'm going to get to that right here quickly, you'll be able to see in Common App how many letters of recommendation. You can also find out on the admissions web pages for the universities if they require more than one letter of recommendation. But really, only your higher level, more highly selective schools tend to offer more than one. And so that you should really focus on that one. School counselors automatically we write letters of recommendation for our students on our caseload. And again, I would recommend that the student, to have input into what goes into that letter, make an appointment with your counselor. Students right now have been making appointments. Students have been coming in. So if you want to get closer to the front of that queue, then make make the appointment and use that Calendly link and schedule that time to talk with us about that. Okay. Common App. The Common application is used at most universities, certainly every university in the state of Maine, and the East Coast, the Northeast especially. There's really only a handful of schools that don't use Common App. If you're applying to schools in the deep South in Texas or sometimes on the West Coast, they might use a different form called the Coalition application. And some schools like MIT use their own institutional application. Georgetown is another one that uses their own institutional application. So Common App is probably going to be your best way to go because you can fill out one form and then you can use it to send your applications to every university that you apply to. Commonapp.org. That link is going to be in the notes that I send out after we're done here tonight, and you don't have to remember that off the top of your head right now. But commonapp.org will get you the link to that site. The things that it's going to ask you to do: demographic information, contact information. A big tip is for students to set up and use a personal email address and to check it fairly often. Once you apply to college, that's how they're going to communicate with you. They're not going to text you. They're not going to WhatsApp you or Facebook you or anything like that. It's going to be strictly through email. So you also want an email that's probably going to be active after you graduate from high school. So having your own email address, not your Bangor high school address, that would be the one that you would use. It's going to ask you for your grades, class rank, GPA. So if you need that information, again, contact your school counselor and they can help you out with that. They're going to ask parent information. They want to know things like, did you go to college? Where did you go to college? There's a lot of colleges give preference to legacy students, children of alumni. They may, a school like Husson will even there is a legacy scholarship. So they'll give you $1,000 off the tuition for children of Husson grads and things like that. So they need to know that information. And in Common App, you'll also upload your essay and everything into that. That's where you pick out the schools, and that's where you will submit. And if a school has an application fee, you'll pay it at the moment that you finish and send it in. And then what the school counselor, you invite your recommenders, and it sends an email to the recommenders to be able to upload their letters of recommendation. And that goes for your school counselor as well. We get invited by the student, and we upload the transcript and the school profile, our own letters of recommendation, and all of that. Common App also gives the student the opportunity to monitor the progress of their application, to find out if letters have been uploaded, and things like that. Deadlines are really important. So the big date, if anybody is doing early action or early decision, November 1 is usually the target date for those early applications. I'm going to talk in a minute about something called on-the-spot admissions. And November 1 is the deadline to get your application in on Common App to be able to participate in that activity. After that, December 1 is the next deadline that's really important to know. That, for example, is the deadline at the University of Maine for priority financial aid, merit-based financial aid. So if you want to get that scholarship because you got good grades in high school, if you get your application in by December 1, you're guaranteed to get the full benefit of the scholarship that they give you. After that, it's the availability of funds that they have. The regular admission deadlines are usually right around January 1 to January 15, depending on the college that you're applying to. And then after that, in terms of the application process, it is a matter of when the school will notify you of the admissions decision. If it's an early action November 1 deadline, they'll usually notify you somewhere in the middle of December. If you're a general admission student and you applied in January, you'll probably find out in March. April 1 is the latest deadline for schools to notify you of their admission decisions, because you need to make your decision on where you actually are going to go by May 1. And once on May 1, you submit a deposit and you become a matriculated student and you've committed to go to a university. At that point, you pick classes, you get a dorm assignment, you become a real student at that university and go for all of that. So typically, thinking ahead a little bit of what happens in April, if you've got an admissions decision April 1 and you have to decide May 1, April is one of those times where there's a lot of accepted student days. So universities have events for students that have been accepted. They invite you to campus and they do all kinds of things to try to get you acclimated and also to get you to pick their school from the ones that you've been accepted to. If you want to do any kinds of college visits before that, so in other words, if you want to do a little bit of looking around before you apply, if you do general admission and you have until January, there are on-campus and virtual events at every university that you could possibly be thinking of. And the way you find that out is check the admissions pages, and they will have all kinds of open houses. They will have tours. They will have virtual tours. And the bottom line too is this: if you don't know what the visit opportunities are for the universities, you can always contact their admissions office. That's what they want to tell you, because they know they get the best chance of getting you to attend their university if you actually come and visit and see them. So they're very anxious to get you to come and see. So please don't hesitate to reach out to universities and ask them those questions. If you can't find the information on their websites, then go ahead and give them a call. A little bit about SATs. I don't know of any schools that are requiring SATs or ACTs this year. They are test optional. The last SAT test date is the first Saturday in November, and that's the last SAT test date in this application cycle. So even if you're applying early admission, you could still use that test date if you wanted to take the SAT. If you've already taken it and you want to try a retake, you can use that as well. There's a way on the Common App to be able to tell it that you have an upcoming test. So even if you submit an application November 1 and a couple of days later you're going to take the SAT again, you can just tell them there's a pending test, and you'll send the scores when you get them. And that's okay. That's part of the process. They know that. This year's juniors will start taking SATs in March. But test optional is exactly that. They are not requiring SATs either for financial aid or for admission. But I would say this: if you take the SAT and it's a good score, then by all means use it, because SAT scores are sometimes most commonly used, I would say, as a way to validate your good grades. If you got really good grades in high school, is it just because you're a nice kid and all the teachers like you and they give you easy grades? Or can you also get a good score on the SAT and kind of validate what you got for grades? That's how they use it. So if it's a good score, then by all means enter it. It's one more piece of information that's to your benefit. If you didn't get a good score on the SAT, or if you really rather not take it, you don't have to, because again, like I said, I don't know of any school that is requiring the test for for admissions. There's one out there, but I haven't come across it. On the spot admissions, three universities: the University of Maine, the University of Southern Maine, and Husson University are offering on the spot admissions right here at Bangor High School. And I put a Google form link at the beginning of the chat box. So if you go back to the beginning of the chat line and you can see our contact information, I put a post there that says on the spot admissions. Students can use that Google form to sign up to participate in the on the spot admissions days that we're going to do in November. So in order to do that, you have to sign up for it. So we know that you want to do that. You also have to complete your Common App for those universities. You can do the early admissions date on the spot date for all three of those schools if you wanted to. But Husson is going to be on November 4th and 5th. UMaine is on November 10th, and USM is on November 12th. We're asking that the students complete their applications by November 1 so that those universities can then get a look at the application so that when they come here, they're already prepared and they can sit in front of you and they can evaluate your application. They can give you your admissions decision, and they can also give you the merit-based financial aid decision at the same time. They can look at your GPA, they can look at the rigor of your classes, they can look at your activities and things like that. I've seen UMaine give out the music scholarship. It's a $3,000 scholarship to students that were in band or orchestra or chorus. So they'll have that discussion with you in person. The first reaction that students get to the on-the-spot offer is that it's kind of terrifying. It's anxiety and like, oh my gosh, I'm going to sit there. They're going to look at my application right there with me watching them. But every student that leaves these offices after those admissions meetings, they feel so much better. I mean, they've gotten a realistic view. They've gotten the actual process taken care of, and they feel a lot better about their whole application process. It's also a chance to literally ask an admissions person questions right while they're sitting there in front of you looking at your application. So it's a really good opportunity. Even if those three schools are not your first choice school, you should still do the on the spot days. You need to have a safety school. You need to have a school that is both certain for you to get in and also most affordable. When you think about a safety school, you have to consider your ability to pay as well as your ability to get accepted. And all three of those schools are affordable, good choices and with good quality programs that probably fit the vast majority of the people viewing tonight. So definitely have your students take advantage of the on-the-spot admissions. Highly selective schools. A lot of questions about early action and early decision. Early action and early decision isn't just about when you turn in your application to a school. It is a particular grouping of the admission process. So if your university has a deadline to apply of January 1, you can send in your application anytime. That doesn't mean it's an early action or early decision application. You will indicate on your application which group you want to be in. Every school has some type of an early action, early decision. And early action is typically something that we would call non-binding. It means that you're going to apply by November 1. The university will give you a decision in in December, and you'll already know that you're admitted, but it's non-binding, so you can still consider other schools. An early decision means you've already decided if you get in early, you will go to that school. So an ED or early decision application really should only be reserved for your number one top school. Because if they say yes to you, you're already telling them, yes, I'm saying I'm definitely going to your school. So does that give you a greater chance of getting accepted? Um, yes, it can a little bit, not a huge difference. Like I said, an early decision application should only be for that number one school that you know you will go to if you get accepted. Um, Now, what's the difference between early action and early decision? One's binding, one's non binding. Do you have to memorize this? Is there going to be a test? No. The important question to ask is it binding? In other words, are you entering a contract that if they say yes, that you're already agreeing to go? Um, if it's binding, that means you would have to remove your other applications or not apply yet. If it's non-binding, you can still consider other schools. To apply to UMaine and do the on-the-spot admissions, you are doing early action at UMaine, but it's not binding. So it doesn't mean that that has to be your number one choice school. You can still consider the other schools. You'll walk out of Bangor High School on November 10th, and you'll know that you've been accepted to UMaine, but you don't have to make up your mind until May 1st. So that's the important decision there. Highly selective schools, lots of people want to know, how do I increase my chances of getting into Yale or Harvard or Princeton? Do I increase my chances of getting into a very prestigious school by applying to more prestigious schools? The answer is no, right? I've seen kids apply to upwards of 20 schools thinking that increased their odds of getting into a prestigious school. And that doesn't do it any good at all to apply to more schools. What does help your chances of getting into a highly selective school is showing interest. Those schools are very interested in their matriculation rates. So they like to say yes to people that they know want to go there. So apply early action or early decision to a top choice school, but also show a lot of interest. Participate in their virtual tours, sign up for their mailings, contact their admissions office, do the legwork, really get really involved in the admissions process to those particular, 3 or 4 schools that you're really, really interested in. You need to show that your interest in them is very high in order to increase your chances of them realizing that you're a legit applicant and you're not just applying to all kinds of different prestigious schools. If the only time they hear from you is when they receive your application, you're not giving yourself a very good chance to get into that particular school. Okay. So any of these highly selective schools, anything that is less than a 30% chance of getting in, when you look at College Board or a College Raptor or any of these places that tell you what the admission rates are, if it's less than 1/3 of the applicants get accepted, that's considered highly selective. So just make sure that if you apply to those, that you're taking tours or participating in interviews or anything like that that they may be offering for you to do. Get on their websites, devour the website, know everything about what you're interested in, and then find those things that you can't find answers to. Contact the admissions people at that school and start asking them questions. If they know your name and it's a good reason why they know your name, then they'll be interested in you. So don't hesitate to reach out to those schools. Community colleges. Community colleges tend to have rolling admissions. That means you can apply anytime. So you could literally apply next summer to go to Eastern Maine Community College. I wouldn't wait that long, however. The most important piece of advice about choosing a college, even for students that are kind of like, do I want to go to college or not? I don't know which college I want to go to. still get some applications in. It is not too early to apply to a community college. Um, and you can always change your mind, right, later on. But my biggest concern about waiting too long to apply to a community college is that the limiting factor would be if programs fill up. If it's a nursing program or something like that where there's equipment or lab space, it may fill up sooner, and if you wait too long, you miss the chance to get into a program. If you're thinking about a possibility of going, let's say you want to go into a nursing program in Eastern Maine Community College, apply now, right now, and get in, get a spot. And if you change your mind later, you can always change your major, or opt to go somewhere else. That is okay. That's part of the process. So don't wait too long. November, December, that's the best timeline to be doing applications to the community college. I do anticipate there's a good chance we'll do an on-the-spot admissions with EMCC as well. But we're getting the UMaine, USM, and Husson kind of taken care of first, and then we can turn our attention to the community colleges. I encourage everybody to check out the Maine Community College website. Eastern Maine Community College is not the only choice. There are 7 community colleges in Maine, and they have a wide variety of programs. If wind power technology is a popular program at Northern Maine Community College. Outdoor recreation is a popular program at Washington County Community College. So they might each have their own little niche, very much like the University of Maine system. Farmington, Presque Isle, Fort Kent all have different programs. UMaine Augusta, UMaine Machias, USM. They all have a little bit of a different a different specialty. So check them all out. Maine Community College website. Certainly encourage you to go check that out. I was talking a little bit with the highly selective schools about making connections with them, doing a visit, checking out their website, finding out what their tour availability is and that sort of thing. That's important for every school. Even if you're going to get in, you've got great grades, you want to stay local, you want to go to UMaine, you want to go to Eastern Maine Community College, you still got to go visit. You still got to participate in those events that they have, because this is a big decision, right? This is right up there with buying a home, getting married, choosing to go to college and where you're going to go to college, what you're going to major in is a big deal. And you really got to, do the thorough look. So doing the visits before the application, if possible. If not, wait, apply, and then you can always go to the new student orientation days or accepted student orientation days after you've been accepted. COVID has really kind of dampened the kind of getting ahead of the curve, where you go and you do your visits kind of in the summer before. It was so hard to do that because it was so uncertain as to whether or not you could get onto college campuses. So you do have until that May 1 deadline when you have to choose a school. So definitely get the visits in. If schools offer interviews, whether they're alumni interviews or with a grad student, take them up on it. Get a chance to ask people questions, have conversations about what you want to do. Those are really, really helpful as well. And again, I can't emphasize it enough. Call, email the admissions office at these schools and talk to people there. That's what they're there for. They want to hear from you. So that helps you out a lot. Military. Lots of great options with the military. It's a good bridge between talking about college to talking about financial aid. If military service is something that you're considering, I would encourage you to reach out to one of the recruiters in the area to have a conversation. Remember, by talking to a military recruiter does not commit you to anything. Military recruiters are just like college campus recruiters. they want you to join their program, and they like their program. They're involved in their program. They want you to be a part of it. They're going to give you the sell, just like the University of Maine will give a sales pitch to get you to come to them. So really look at military recruiters as the same thing as a college recruiter, except you don't need financial aid to go into the military, right? So if it's a possible option, it's worth your while to have the conversation with the recruiter. You can be honest with them, and you can say, "Look, I'm just checking it out. I want to know, is it going to help me pay for college? Can I go in the military first and go to college later? Can I do it the other way around?" Right? Um, National Guard and Reserves are options as well. And it's so hard for me to generalize and say, "Oh, this is this program, and this is good for you," because every one of you out there listening right now is in a different situation. And so you need to decide, first of all, is that a good option? Is that something you'd even remotely consider? If you'd remotely consider it, then at least check it out. They'd be glad to hear from you. We have good relationships with the Army National Guard, with the United States Marine Corps, with the United States Army. The Navy and the Air Force don't necessarily have local recruiters, but you can contact them through their websites, and they will make arrangements to have somebody to talk to. The same thing with the Coast Guard. Sorry, I leave the Coast Guard out off my head here every once in a while. That those are options that are there, and your counselor here can help facilitate those connections with you as well. They visit us here at school every once in a while. What's that? Oh, financial aid. How about paying for school? Our favorite topic. The first thing, and it's available now, it became available October 1. If you want to get financial aid, you must fill out the free application for federal student aid, the FAFSA form, and that is at fafsa.gov. It is a free application, so you shouldn't be paying anything for it. What is required is basically your income tax information, both for the student and parents. And it can get a little complicated if you have divorced or separated or unmarried parents and step parents, and which house does the student live in, and that sort of thing. The general rule of thumb is whichever home of the whichever parent you live with more than 50% of your time, that's supposed to be the household that fills out the FAFSA. I know that there are 50-50 custody arrangements, all of these different things that complicate that process. You're more than welcome to set up an appointment with us to talk about your particular situation, or you can contact the Finance Authority of Maine. They have wonderful people, and that's their expertise, is helping with the finances of college. It's famemaine.com, and that email address and our web address is on the notes sheet that I'm going to share as well. So you can contact any of us to help you out. The FAFSA form is intimidating if you've never done it before. But once you get accustomed to it, you do have to fill out the FAFSA every year that you're in college. And it's not as intimidating as you might think it is. It's a little anxiety inducing because you're sharing information about your finances. It might be uncomfortable to be talking about your incomes with your kids, all of those kinds of things. But the FAFSA will qualify you for any eligible federal government financial aid, but it's also the form that your university will use to determine your financial aid package that you get from them. So and most schools will tell you, in order to qualify for any of their financial aid, you must do the FAFSA form. When you do the FAFSA, you tell there's a place on the form where you tell it which school you're going to apply to, and you can put, I think, up to 10 on the list. And so that's right part of the process. The information from FAFSA goes straight to the university. You don't have to shift it back and forth and pass papers to and from different people. You do what you need to do, and then FAFSA goes directly to the financial aid offices at the schools that you listed on the form. From there, what will happen is you will get a number. You'll get a student aid report, and on that student aid report is a number called the estimated family contribution. It's a really gross number. I promise you, it's not going to make you happy. It's one of those numbers where it's the lower the better. Uh, but I think every family out there looks at the FAFSA and thinks that's how much they think I can pay. Um, it's kind of sometimes it's kind of discouraging, but that number is what the universities will use to determine your level of need. Um, and again, we can talk more about that on your individual situation. I'm happy to do that with you as well. But that's what you can expect. If you're applying to a university that is a private university in Maine, I'm talking about Colby, Bates, and Bowdoin, they will also require that you do another financial aid form that isn't nearly as easy to fill out as the FAFSA. That's called the CSS profile. You do that through the College Board's website, and there is a fee for that one. I believe it's $25, and then for every subsequent school that you send it to, it's I think another $15 or $16 that you have to pay for that one. So if you apply to Colby, Bates, and Bowdoin, you'd pay 25 plus 16 plus 16 to be able to fill out the CSS profile and send it. The CSS profile, because these private schools have endowments and they give out financial aid on a need-based system, they want to make sure that the money is going to the right people. So they want to check to make sure that you're not this wealthy person that is living off of all of your stock income. And there's lots of ways that people might not have a huge paycheck or income, but they still have a lot of wealth. They want to know if you've got your wealth tied up in investments or property or all of these other kinds of things. And what they end up, 99.9% of the time, that form will end up helping you, unless you're multimillionaires and you can afford to write the big check for these $70,000 a year schools. The CSS profile wants to make sure that helps the universities make sure that the right people get the money for financial aid. So those are the forms that you would have to fill out to get financial aid through the universities and through the federal government. Now, there's need-based financial aid, and that is based on your ability to pay, and that comes through the FAFSA and through the CSS profile. If you have to fill that one out. Merit-based financial aid is based on how good a student you are in high school. The single largest source of financial aid, and we tell freshmen this every single year over and over again, the single biggest source of financial aid is based on your high school performance. And that is based on your grades and the rigor of the program that you took. So, for example, the University of Maine and Husson have very similar merit-based financial aid structures. You can qualify for anything from $1,000 to $8,000 per year in merit-based financial aid based on your high school performance. $8,000 a year, that's $32,000 over the course of 4 years. That's a pretty darn good scholarship. And that has to do with how you did as a student. There's no better way to get financial aid than to do well in school and establish a really good track record. So those two types of financial aid are there. Loans, there's a lot that can be discussed about student loans. Some debt is actually a good thing from a financial perspective. It builds credit. Student loans are in the name of the student, so the credit goes to them. Um, it allows you to spread out the cost of education instead of paying for it in 4 years. Paying lower payments and spreading it out helps people manage money a little bit better. Um, but there are different types of loans, subsidized and unsubsidized. Unsubsidized loans mean they start accumulating interest right away. So if you get a $5,000 unsubsidized federal government loan, it's going to start charging you interest. And if you wait 4 or 5 years to start paying for it, it's going to have a lot of interest tacked onto it as well. The FAFSA form and your student aid report will let you know if you're getting subsidized or unsubsidized. And then once you're accepted to a university, the financial aid offices there will be able to tell you what form your financial aid comes in, whether it's a loan or a grant or scholarship. And that, grants and scholarships are always great because you don't have to pay them back as long as you maintain a good academic performance while you're in school. So the FAFSA is available now. I would encourage that you get it done before Thanksgiving. So students and their parents should sit down in front of the computer with income tax information. And I guess my biggest parenting recommendation is that students and parents work together on this instead of it just being something that mom or dad does, or that you have the accountant do or something like that. Students need to start learning the incredible responsibility of paying for a higher education. It is a fact of life. And they need to know, quite honestly, that mom and dad are not an ATM machine. They need to know that it's an incredible expense, and how much you're able to pay and all of those sorts of things. So those are very personal conversations, but it's something that parents and your children need to be probably working together on, so that there's a good understanding of what all of it means. Scholarships. The most important thing to be working on right now is the applications to school. I always recommend that scholarship season will be coming very, very soon, but you have to finish the application before you worry about paying for the school. So get the application stuff taken care of. You can get the FAFSA application done as soon as applications are submitted to universities, which, by the way, if you do that November 1, that gives you more time to turn your attention to getting funding for school. Scholarships, if you've been to an academic awards night or to graduation, you see lots of scholarships being given out. There is one application for all of those scholarships, and that happens in March or April. So you don't have to worry about that right now. We get lots of scholarship applications that are sent to us from different organizations. The Finance Authority of Maine also has a webpage that has lots of applications for scholarships that are available to Maine students. And then, of course, if you're looking for those general scholarships that are kind of all over the place, there are websites such as FastWeb, scholarships.com that have all kinds of scholarships that you can imagine, and you can use that website. Back in the old days, that used to be this big phone book looking thing where you had to go thumb through, but they have search engines that can really narrow down what you are qualified for, and you can use those websites to do that as well. So it really, your scholarship search is really custom designed to the individual, and but we'll be assisting students with that, as needed. But I would say after November 1, getting your applications turned in, and then turning your attention to those scholarships. Like I said, get FAFSA done preferably before Thanksgiving, so that you know that you're going to be eligible for the full um, the full potential of an award from a university. Uh, and I it's hard to really say more about that unless we talk on kind of on a one-to-one basis. So again, go back and to the top of the chat and make an appointment with us to get some specific help on that. The last thing that I kind of want to finish up with, and I'm making good time. So what I'm going to do before I finish up is I want to give the gift card. So Sharon, why don't you give me a number between 1 and 90 in the chat, because I can't hear you. Or Scott, whoever gets to it first, wants to pick a number between 1 and 90. They're diligently working. Oh, there it is. Sharon. Oh, sorry, Scott. Now everybody's picking a number. I'm going with 29. Sharon, number 29 is, I got to go to my list. Who is it going to be? Number 29 is Kalani Welch, mom, Rebecca Shassey. You have won a $10 gift card at Dunkin' Donuts. So I will, I'll hold that and give that to Kalani tomorrow. Okay. So the last thing is a little bit of adulting, and I have really kind of 5 tips that I would say, and I do this less as a guidance counselor and more as a dad of um, 2 former college students. I have 2 children that have both graduated from college, so I've been there. I've gone through all of this process, and when I think about what are those kind of life experience, life lessons that I would pass along, and it's less in all of that other stuff that I've already gone through, and it's a little bit more about um, that the kind of the life lesson, the intrinsic thing that really makes the this young person a little bit more self-reliant and capable of being a productive, happy, and healthy young adult. Number one is employment. Get a job. Get a job. Get a job. Get a job anywhere. And start earning a paycheck. I talked a few minutes ago about understanding the value of money and the great expense of higher education, and understanding a little bit about mom and dad's financial situations. There's no better life lesson than understanding how much time and effort and work you have to put into a job, and then what the paycheck looks like at the end. So that's a very, very important thing. Colleges also do like to see that. It's not just about being a volunteer. It's not just about participating on a sports team. That you go out and get a job and actually start to do a little bit of the thing that you're going to be doing for the rest of your life. So that's a really important thing. Transportation, um, getting a driver's license is really important. Lots of students already have their driver's licenses, but if they don't, they should. If they're going to buy their own car, or have a car, or if mom and dad are going to get a car for them, same thing. They need to know the incredible investment that is, and also the responsibility of taking care of that investment. So having reliable transportation is really important. Managing their own finances. If they're earning a paycheck, they should certainly have their own bank account, checking account, debit card, and if possible, I know credit unions especially will work with you to get a credit card for a young person on their own. It's time to start building credit, and it's time to start having some of those responsibilities for themselves. monitoring their own health and wellness. Little things like when you go to college, where's the pharmacy? Where is the campus health services located, including mental health services? College is tough. Moving away from home is tough. There's going to be times when they're going to need some help. Um, and that's okay, and they need to understand that. So one of the good things that you could really do with your kids is to help them find those connections, and to make sure that they're going to be taken care of. Dentists, even, are they going to go to the dentist when they come home from on vacation, or do they need to find one where they are going to school? Things like that are really, really important. What are they going to eat? My son went to a university that doesn't have a dining hall. um, and so they had credits at local restaurants and supermarkets and things like that, and they had little kitchenettes inside their dorm rooms. That is an incredible responsibility, when you when you ask a 19-year-old to feed themselves. It can't be all pizza and Chick-fil-A. So um, having those conversations and knowing what to do in those situations. And the last one, and the most important one, is self advocacy. They need to be able to say what they need, and they need to be able to know who to say it to. um, they can't be shy about things and wait for somebody else to do those things for them. So every bit of responsibility that you can hand over to your young adult, please do so. It goes a long way over the next 4 years, for sure. And I would add to that too, when you contact admissions offices and you contact schools, it should be the student making those calls, not mom and dad. Mom and dad can tell son or daughter what to say or what you want to know, but always make sure that the student is the one making those communications. It's a little anxiety inducing. It's a little scary, but the more you give them that responsibility, the less anxiety they will have about that process. So you want them to go out on their own and to be able to self advocate and to be able to take care of themselves. Colleges and faraway cities can be scary places. And you want the peace of mind and knowing that they can take care of themselves when they get there. So employment, transportation, taking care of their own finances, their own health and wellness, and being a self advocate, and you're going to have a successful college student. I know that for sure. Um, that's it. That's all I've got. 1 hour and 2 minutes. I went overtime by two. I apologize for those 2 minutes. But I hope that this was informative to all of you. And as soon as we sign off, I am going to let it upload, and it'll get onto YouTube. And I've got all of your emails, so I will share the video link, and I will share my notes with you so that you can check this out later, if you want to. It's not worthy of cable television. It's not something you're going to watch over and over again, but it's a reference tool if you need it. So I thank all of you for joining, and I hope it was informative. And have a wonderful year. And please give us a shout if there's anything that we can do for you. Okay. So take care. Stay well. Stay healthy. Stay safe, and enjoy senior year. Good night, everybody.